So Maddie can say if she can get Alexa to go on every fourth time, but she can't. She wants to say Alexa again, but she goes, well, Alexa again. Like that, it doesn't work. So. Yes.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, we have. I actually had our last Alexa story. My alarm was going off. I had set an alarm with Alexa, and it was like going off up in my room, and I sent our 3-year-old up to turn it off. And he did.
Alexa, turn off.
Alexa, turn it off. And he came back and he said, "She's not listening." And I said, "Okay, say it slow and loud." And he went back and he said, "It worked." That's like, "You did." Very exciting. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
How's everybody doing? Waking up? You waking up right? Little rainy morning. I'm glad to see lots of shiny faces on a rainy morning. I have a question for you. I want you to think about what is one thing you did this past week to move your business? Just one. Tell me what's one thing you did this past week to move your business. You had a coffee yesterday. Did it taste good? Who is your coffee with?
He's on algebra nice.
Okay. And what did you share with your coffee friend? So where is he in your lineup? Okay. And where? So we've got an Allison and Dennis. And where is he in your farm system? How would you categorize him in your farm system? Cindy, how would you categorize an old friend of Tony's who he hasn't seen in a very long time? What would he be?
No.
In the lineup?
Yep, in your farm system. An old friend who you haven't seen in a very long time is what? What? Frozen. Right? Explain. If someone on your team said, "Tony, I don't understand. What's this frozen category?" How would you explain it? No, but who's in your frozen category? How would you describe that person? Ah, so you know the category. Okay. And so how would you categorize this person in your life? Who you just said is an old friend who I haven't seen in a very long time. Does that make sense? Okay. So Tony had what we would call a frozen coffee. Right? And what's the goal of a frozen coffee? To reestablish a relationship. Is that Oscar? Is that Oscar talking? Is that Oscar?
You're on fire today, Oscar.
Ow! Welcome to the party. To reestablish the relationship. That's a good way to move your business. Cindy, what's one thing you did this week to move your business?
I opened my mouth about my business twice.
Twice! Open your mouth. So someone was like, "So what's going on?" And you went,
Now I spoke to them about what I'm doing, what I do when I leave the office, because when I left the office, I said, "It's time to go change the world." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Well, this is what I'm going to go do." And they're like, "You do that?"
cool. So who did you tell it to?
Two of the ladies that sit next to me in my office.
Two ladies that sit next to you in your office. Nice. Congratulations for opening your mouth. And how would you characterize those ladies in your farm system?
Those ladies are in my warm market because we conversate every day about different topics, and now this is one of the things that I'm going to change the world when I leave the office. Are like, now they know that I say that, but they know why I say that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're kind of like, I leave them in a little bit intrigued so we can talk later.
Okay.
Or the next day.
Yeah.
And the next day.
Yep.
So
Would you consider them in your baseline 30?
Yes.
So that's part of the group that you're building?
Yes.
And what phase of the baseline 30 would you say they're in?
They're in, I'd say the second phase.
The second phase?
I'm trying to remember on my sheet.
On what basis would you say they're in the second phase?
Because they know a little bit about what I'm doing.
So they're starting to see a change, right? So probably somewhere between 1 and 2, right? Starting to see a change. Because you're still in the I'm introducing what I'm doing, right? And then we get into the introducing that I'm teaching, right? So we're on that path. And then sometimes I have trouble thinking about the difference between warm and lukewarm. So what's if you were to characterize someone as warm versus lukewarm, how would you characterize someone that's warm on your? How would you explain what warm is on your lineup? Someone who what?
That obviously understands the work too, but the warm would be someone that set in front of 2 weeks or 2 weeks.
Right. So
Someone that's
someone
not
warm
gonna
would
be
be if you asked them to coffee and said, I want to have coffee to talk to you about something important, they would say what? A couple weeks from now, right? That's that warm category. So are these two people in your life people who, if you ask them to sit down to coffee, would say, sure, let's find a time in a couple weeks from now?
Yes.
Okay, and that's how we know that they're warm. Versus what they started in Cindy's life, right? These are people she met at work. These are people who started lukewarm. These are people that she would say hi to, right? Once in a while, and then more often on a daily basis. And so I wanted to get clarity as to whether these people were actually still lukewarm, people that you're starting to engage with, people you say hi to all the time, or if they moved into a warm category, where that's someone that if you said, can we sit down and talk more, they'd say, sure, right? Why am I spending any of this time on these categories? Why would I be spending time on this?
To be able to know who people are, to be able to know where to move from either taking back or move forward.
Right? We use these categories because if we know where people are, we know how to talk to them, and we know what it means to be one degree more intense, and we know where we're moving.
Also, I think once you have this sort of down, it helps you to know when you're actually working on your business and you're not. Right? So if you are in a lineup and you sit down and Tony has a frozen coffee and however that coffee goes, whatever happens, he can feel like, oh, I moved my business forward today. Now, he may not have the experience to know how that's going to translate to his business downstream effects, but he can feel good, be like, I moved my business forward today.
Yes. Melissa, what's one thing you did this week to move your business?
I did a call with Wade earlier, that was this week, right? I studied, and then I did talk about it, just like even, I know, I saw my tax accountant, and he's actually doing some reading and studying on the security, so we were talking about it then.
Are you talking about the Zoom appointment?
Yeah, when was that?
Yeah.
The second one?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Those are all good things. That's not a that's it. Those are all good important things. Oscar, what's one thing you did to move your business this week?
Learning well, first I spoke to my sister, I spoke to a couple people in my family, and I was able to more clearly state what I was doing. And I knew where to put them on the paper for the bulletin and all that stuff. Also learning the conversations to have.
Which conversations?
The CDR conversation.
Okay. Your duties and responsibility. Good. Claudia, Amanda, what's one thing you did this week to move your business?
We did the book. Oh, I did the book.
Okay. Good. So we've got studying going on. That's a really important thing. Mr. Wade, I've heard that there are a couple of things you did this week in order to move your business, and a couple of things that I'd love you to come up and share with the group.
How's everybody doing? Oh my God, that one person clapped for me today. Come on, Kevin, come on, bring it up. All right, thank you. That's actually going to be what we're going to talk a little bit about today too, which is that's called pandering to the audience right there. So, okay, so how is everybody doing? So I don't have super, this is famous last words, but there are three things I want to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the piston theory,
I want to talk about the 3 buckets, which is the baseline 30, the wellness, and the quadrants of getting, the 4 quadrants of getting started, and the impact of feeling positive or negative when you're doing assessment. Okay. So let's talk about the piston theory first. I know we've talked a lot about it, but I'm really starting. Good morning. I'm really starting to experience the piston theory with regards to my business, right? And does anybody have kind of a working definition of the piston theory that as they understand it? Anybody? Anybody?
It
Goes up and down. Okay. What else? Okay. So anybody ever heard the talk that Brett gives when he says about how he does 5 recruits in a month?
Yes.
Okay. What is the talk?
That for, they need to be recruited by recruit.
Okay.
Is that good?
Okay. Yes, he did recruit 5 recruits a month for a long time. Yes. Does anybody remember talking about how he did it? Okay.
I don't
so-
remember that, but is it like when you talk to a certain amount of people, then you're gonna get this amount of people that you can go back to, and then you get this amount of people who are interested, or something to that effect?
That's like a sales pipeline kind of. Okay, so the piston theory is basically that 5 months ago I talked to somebody who's going to be ready in 5 months. 4 months ago I talked to somebody who's going to be ready in 4 months. 3 months ago I talked to somebody who's going to be ready in 3 months. 2 months ago I talked to somebody who's going to be ready in 2 months. And today I talked to somebody who's ready today. Okay, and that's how you do 5 recruits in a month, right? Is because like look, Robin talked about the lineup today, right? Right, the frozen, the lukewarm, the warm. That's just a description of where someone is in the process, right? If someone is super like, you know, you have a high credibility with them, we'll talk to you today, right? The same thing applies to how they are, where they are in the business. If it's where they are in terms of coming on board as an associate, coming on board as an ally, coming on board as an advocate, you don't just talk to someone and then immediately like. At least I don't. Maybe someone else does, but I'm not such a gifted person where I can take a total stranger and a 20-minute conversation turn them into a person who's going to be an RVP, right? This is a process. Everything takes a process, right? So the piston theory is just the idea that people are going to be in all different areas of the process in every area of your business. Your baseline 30 is going to be in a different area. Some of them are going to be hot, some of them are going to be warm, some of them are going to be lukewarm, and some are going to be frozen. All we're doing with the lineup is moving people through that process and getting 1 degree more intense, and then they all become allies, advocates, and associates at different speeds. But the way that you get a lot of results at one time is you have a lot of people working at a lot of different speeds, and all of them become ready, some of them come ready at the same time. That's the piston theory. It is a foundational method of our business. It's a foundational concept of our business that allows us to, when something happens, to not be positive or negative about it, right? We have this, Tony, did you have an idea with the person that you were talking with about being frozen, about what that was going to happen in that conversation? What was the idea? What did you want to happen? I'm sorry?
I wanted my husband to be positive.
Right, but did you want them to do anything, or did you just want to just tell them the story? Okay, awesome. Well, that's an awesome, it doesn't really matter what happens if you tell the story, right? It's an outcome that you want that moves the person forward, okay? Whereas if Tony was like, I want to sell that guy some insurance, and he didn't sell his uncle insurance, and he feels bad about it, that's not what we're trying to accomplish, right? The whole purpose of what we're doing with the lineup, the whole purpose of what we're doing with the baseline 30, the whole purpose of what we're doing in our business is moving people forward along the path of allies, advocates, and associates, so that when they're ready, right, they become those things in our business, and our business becomes stronger. If we come from an assessment of results all the time about I'm not making any money, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that, then we're feeling negative about our business, and we feel negative about our business. Are we confident when we talk about it? Right? So if you can understand the piston theory and come talk to me later if you want to talk more about it, and then you can understand how that works, then you don't get bummed out when something doesn't go the way you thought it should have gone, because in our business, we're always winning. If you can get your mindset in this way, you are always winning. Tony, you won in your business because you had a frozen coffee. Now, you don't necessarily have the experience to know how that's going to translate downstream, but if you have 100 of those frozen coffees, you will have something positive for your business translate downstream. Okay, so the piston theory is critical to understand for the mental game that we have to play, because we're playing a game that's different than everybody else. All right, so when we're talking about assessment, about how things go, right, that's step one, is to understand is that people go at different speeds. And just because they're not where you are doesn't mean that it's a bad thing for your business. Does that make sense? Does that sound like I'm a crazy person talking about that? No? Good. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 buckets, right? Does anybody know when I talk about the 3 buckets, what I'm referring to? All right, it's the 3 ways you're going to close the universe on your business, right? In terms of, it's the baseline 30, which is the 30 people in your lineup that you're working on right now. It's the wellness prospecting, if you are doing that. And the quad for getting started. I always think of anyone know the song, Come on Ride That Train, the Choo Choo Train? That's the Quad City DJs, and I think of that song, right? So every single person that I'm going to talk about today, with these 3 buckets of what I did this week, is not the first time that I talked to them. And we all agree on that, okay? These people are all in different areas of my business. They're all different, and that's the piston theory. They're all different, ready at different times, okay? So effectively with the baseline 30, on Friday I had 3 appointments in a row, right? I sat down with my friend Sully, who's in my baseline 30. I would say that he's a warm to a hot, he's kind of in the middle. And I've been working on Sully for 2 years, sort of as a lawyer to come into my business, and we just had a conversation. He basically told me mostly the same thing that he always did, which is like, I don't have enough time, and now's not a good time. But there was actually, I could see it in him, there was a little bit of like, maybe there's something here that I need to get more information on, right? And when I saw that, do you guys think that I try to close him right there and try to be like,
No.
get all aggressive on him? I was like, okay, I'm gonna make that note in here. I'm gonna talk to Brett about it. I'm like, I saw this. What does that mean? So Brett and I need a debrief on how do I, because now I have an opening. I haven't had an opening for 2 years. It's been stonewalling me for 2 years. Okay. So then I sat down and I talked to. I had lunch with Matt Cohen. He's in my baseline 30, and really Matt's told me no, like, I don't know, 5 times. He's a lawyer. He's like, I don't have any time. I don't want to do it. My wife and I are doing really, really great, right? But I'm still. Does that mean that I stopped talking to him? No, I keep telling him the impact stories because remember, think of a clothesline, right? When you have a clothesline, you hang clothes with clothespins on it, and so the space between, nothing happens. But then you go, boom, here's a clothespin. That's an impact story. And you don't see them for a long time, and then boom, here's an impact story, right? So I did my impact story, nothing, stone cold, nothing, right? Just like John had been doing for a long time. I was like, okay, that's cool. Did I freak out? I kept having a conversation with him, and I started asking questions about him, right? I was like, all right, let's start talking about him. I'm just gonna spend the rest of the time talking about him. So his wife got a new job in October. So this will tell you how good I am about asking questions of people because this knowledge has been out there since October. His wife just got a job as the head HR person that runs HR at a hospital in Beverly Hills. Okay, so does anyone think that an alarm went off in my head when he's like, my wife is the head of HR at a hospital in Beverly Hills? Okay, so I was like, oh, does anyone think I pounced on him right there and started talking about doing wellness seminars with him? I wanted to really bad, right? But I didn't, right? So I'm like, oh, so I need to make him an advocate for what we do. So now I know the next time I start talking to him, I'm going to be pounding on the nonprofit wellness that I'm doing, right? And that's conversation. And then he said, you and Kristen should come over to have dinner with my wife and I. I was like, yes, that would be awesome. Let's get the wives together because if we get the wives together and they like each other, you and I will see each other a lot more. And he said, yes, that's a truism. You can take that one for free. Okay. So, and then what happened is that I sat down again with the CEOs of the nonprofit that we did a couple weeks ago, right? And see, what I did with the CEOs is we did entrepreneurial training with them. I taught them wide. I taught them certain things about the Pomodoro technique. I taught them about metrics because they want to expand what they're doing into multiple locations, and they're the bottleneck for their organization. So I'm like, oh, well, I've already done business with them, so their plan is done. They have the protections in place, and we're working on everything else. So now I'm like, let me add more value in a way that's not sales. Let me add value in a way that I don't get compensated for, because that's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to make me more available to them. But what's the second thing that it does? Anybody? Kind of. It locks in the sale that I did, right? So if there's any trepidation between anything that's happening, then we're talking about something that just locks them in. So they're like, oh, this is great because, and I don't know if how Brett feels about this, but the whole concept of it is the stronger the relationship that you create and the more value that you provide is going to increase the QBI of your business. Okay, it just naturally is, right? And so I'm not trying to. We didn't talk about the investments. We didn't talk about the plan. I talked about, and this is a special case, but they run a 90-person organization, and now I'm giving them value, and they're like, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna crush quarter 4, right? And they're like, okay, great, right? Now, did I make any money off of any of those appointments? No, but did my business grow dramatically from those 3 appointments, right? And so we can feel good about that. I know I moved my business forward, right? So I'm not spiking the football. I mean, I was excited, but then I knew the problem with the assessment thing is that when bad things happen, like I suck, and we have to recover from my suck, and then you lose time. But the same thing can happen is when you get something good, right? I'm trying to change my assessment. When I debrief with Brett, I'm trying to change it from a Brett tell me I did a good job to Brett tell me, okay, what do we do with this, right? Because I know I'm doing a good job because I'm working really, really hard. Now I could be a good job in the sense of I'm working almost as hard as I possibly can, and that's all that you can do, right? That's a good job, okay? So things are going to go good, things are going to go bad. That is not a relationship of you're doing a good job or not. If you're putting in the time that you have allocated, it doesn't mean you have to work every second, but you say, I'm going to work 10 hours this week, and you work that 10 hours this week, regardless of what happens, good job, right? And that's something that you can give to yourself, right? You don't have to get that from anybody else, and that's a skill.
You have to have that in the entertainment business too, because
Exactly.
you go on hundreds of auditions and you might get one, but you have to like put all of that you can into each one and feel good about that.
Right.
That keeps you going.
Exactly. So then that was in the bucket of, exactly, and that's why I think that we have a big advantage for us in the creative field is because a lot of these concepts people already do, right? Okay, so that's the baseline 30. Then for the wellness, I had, Sean and I did a second Zoom appointment where we did what's called a go back, right? Which is you do the first, you get the commitment, you answer the 4 questions, and then you prepare the F&A, you go back and you do the go back. So we did a go back with, on a Zoom, and I'm going to figure this out for you guys on how we actually can do business on the Zoom easily, right? Because I don't have the actual technology parts to do it, so I'm going to buy those and figure that all out. So it's unusual to do a third appointment. If I would have had the tech down, we would have closed business. So Sean and I are going back next Friday, and we're going to write them up, and that's as a result of the wellness seminar because we got seven appointments for the wellness seminar. Melissa and I are going on another appointment next week for another couple. And so those wellness seminars, we are up to 7 on those. 7 total appointments on the wellness, so I think that's pretty good. And then just to kind of close this out, for the getting started. Oh, yeah, and then so on the getting started, my getting started actually was really cold this last week, right? So nothing was really happening with my people, right? So they were all kind of in various different things. Some of them got distracted, but is that a bad thing? In the lineup, what do we do with our people that are on our roster? What do we do with them?
Develop.
Kind of. Yes, but what do I actually do to people that are support? Right, exactly. So when I have people that I'm developing from the getting started last week, a lot of them had a lot of different stuff going on, right? Melissa and I were talking, and Melissa was doing things, but the rest of everybody else was kind of like, they kind of had receded a little bit because life was interfering with all of what they were trying to do, right? But the piston theory also works in the 3 buckets, right? Because if I was just living in my recruits, right? If I was just living with my recruits, like the people that I had right now, the 6 or 7 people that I have recruited into my business, if I was just living with them and that's all I was doing, how would I feel about my business right now at the end of the week? Frustrated, because none of them are doing anything except Melissa right now. They're all embroiled in something that's going on in their life, which is what happens to everyone. I've done that too, right? But I can support them. I can tell them I love them. I can tell them that I'm here for you, and that's great. Let's get it up next week so they all feel good. I feel good. But then my business, my Wellness 30 is rocking, and my wellness is rocking, right? But at some point, the wellness from the nonprofit's going to run out, right? That's going to run its course, and then we're not going to see those people again for 6 months. But then that's when my quad getting started comes back in. That's when my baseline 30 results come back in. So what happens is that once you start to get into the business and you get good at having a lot of these things going, right? Because you're not wasting a lot of time figuring out what it is that I'm trying to do, right? You're just like, I'm in this universe. I work in these 3 buckets. That's all that and my skill bucket, right? There's the wellness, there's the baseline 30, and then there's the getting your people started, right? So you're always working in that area, which is the universes that you work in, and then your skill improvement. That's it. That's the whole business, really. I mean, other than when we start talking about the second level, which is, okay, now I'm learning how to be profitable. I'm making some money now, but now I have to teach it to my people. And then once I teach it to my people, I have to teach it to people to teach it. That's the entire business. That is the business plan, right? And so it works, and it's not magic, because it's just not magic. It works. So, questions, concerns, quibbles, complaints? That was my week. Thank you. Yeah. Good job. I feel good regardless of you.
This is well, and it's interesting because so all of this, everything we do, right, is, and I wanna, so we've seen this I am, I see kind of a principle. And one of the things that's easy to do is it's easy to sit in a room like this, hear that principle and go, yes, that makes sense. And then it's this thing that you kind of leave outside of you. And then every once in a while, when you're trying to make yourself feel better or understand why things are, you turn back to it. You're like, oh, that's right. But it's easy to have this growth principle as something outside. And so what I try to do is I try to bring it in as often as possible to say, look, this is how things work. And when you're in charge of it and you're pursuing it, amazing things can happen. Like, this is real whether we accept it or not, right? We can do something, we do it, we get better, we can do something more, we do it, we get better, we do something more, we do it, we get better. So whether we accept this as a principle or not, this is how we all grow. This is why this isn't a new concept. Part of the growth, part of what it is we're trying to do, and part of the reason why we teach this, is that if we can actually do this stuff on purpose, we don't have to muddle around how we feel when we're not able to do what we want to do. If here's our goal, one of the biggest challenges is we have a tendency to stand here, and we want to get to here now. Now, is that a path that we can take? No, we can't go from where we are to over here. This would be way more fun, right or wrong. But this is, y'all excited?
Yeah.
Right? We can't do that. But how many of us, even though we know we can, still try as often as possible to take this path? Okay, here's the dilemma. The time and energy, like if you think about it, right? The time and energy, you start running. If you have a little Matchbox car, picture this, maybe this will work. If you have a little Matchbox car and you push it, what happens is it actually starts to go downhill a little bit. So you get a little bit of momentum. And so now you're like, oh, maybe I beat it. Maybe, right? You're like, oh, here we go. Now, what's happened to this time? How do we feel when we start to think it's going to happen? We start to get excited, right or wrong?
Right.
When we realize it's not going to happen, what happens to our emotions?
Down. You're deflated.
So even though we took a path we know in our brains won't work, even though we got a little bit of excitement and enthusiasm, when it settles backwards, we're worse off than we were when we started emotionally. So we lost the time and energy. Does this make sense? This is how most people function. Now, sooner or later, you get so fed up, you're like, and you'll do something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've accomplished something new. And then something amazing happens. Maybe now I can get here. And maybe now I can get here, and maybe now I can. And we have this human tendency to go every time, maybe I can jump. Instead of the understanding that this is an inevitable result, because you just walk, we should just walk and pick it up. If you have to like lunge for it, we're in trouble. Like, these are the indicators for us to start figuring this crap out. So, does this make sense? So, first of all, everyone's life is easier when. Does anyone know the end of that sentence?
You know what that says?
Yes. No, not know what Brett says. That's not quite right. Wait, what is it?
Oh, everyone's life is easier when we listen to Brett first.
Right? Your life's easier when you
Sooner
listen
is after
sooner.
it ends.
Right? Your life's easier when you listen sooner. And the only reason is I'm not right about everything. I'm only right
About what he's right about.
about what I'm right about. Now that might sound like a weird sentence, but it's not. Because I spent lots of time and energy figuring out what I know, and I'm like, I'm going to champion the shit I know. And everything else, I'm going to let anyone else champion it, and I will study it and learn it. Now, I might know it after I learned it. I didn't have to invent it, but I can study and learn it. And then once I know it, I've run every doggone iteration you can think of to figure this crap out. Now, that's a funny little joke in our family, and it's still true. Everyone's life's easier when they listen to Sincere Sooner. It's just we should get shirts. Now, why am I talking about this? Yesterday was a really fun day. So I'm talking with Wade, and he's telling me about his week. And my conversation with Wade went something along like this. Dude, that's awesome. And he's like, I know. He goes, but I got to do this and I got to do this. And it was the first time in my conversation with Wade that Wade wasn't telling me what he did, not trying to get me to say good job, but trying to convince himself that it actually is working. See, when you're running down and you're trying to create something and you're trying to make this thing happen, whatever this is, I don't care what it is. When you're on the verge of, man, something should work, we have a tendency to look for validation that it's working. Because we're like, oh, like what we're doing makes sense. Like this is good. There's nothing wrong with this. This is an integral part of the story. You have to do it, and then you have to look for validation to be able to prove that all of a sudden to yourself that this stuff's working. But I have a question for you. When you're looking for validation that something's working, does that speed you up or slow you down? It's going to slow you down. Not in a negative way, not in a bad way. Not in a negative way and not in a bad way. It's a step in the process. Because the more confident we are on the fact that something's going to work, it actually speeds us up. But in order to have that confidence, we sometimes got to figure out, is what I'm doing actually working? And so in that process, it slows us down. Do you want to live in the space where you're constantly looking, is what I'm doing good? No. But you have, if you've never done something before, do you have to make sure that it's working and it's doing what you want it to do? It's a natural step in the process. Does it make sense? Yeah. My conversation with Mr. Skolsky yesterday was, wait, you realize that you're not listening, you're not looking for you or me to say, oh my gosh, this is actually working. You've now emotionally decided, of course this is working. So now we get to start talking about what are the skill development and what are the growth principles possible. Because if I try coaching when you're looking for validation, we have two different goals. I'm like, man, try this, and you're like, well, yeah, I'll get there, but do you realize, and now we have potential conflict in conversation because I'm talking about skill and he's looking for validation, we're in conflict. Does this make sense? But now all of a sudden, it's like, well, of course this is going to work. Now the question is, how fast can I get better? Which guess what's going to do? He's going to, so now all of a sudden Wade's going, he's going, oh my God, is this going to work? Wow, this is kind of working. How fast can I get better? Do you think that's going to get him closer and closer to his goal? Guys, the reason why this is so critical is 2 points. One, you're literally watching Wade take steps in the growth principle of building and running a distribution company that specializes in wellness for corporations and organizations. You're watching him run and build the business-to-business plan from scratch. And you're literally watching it lock in my market, get good at the impact conversations in my baseline 30, find an opportunity and look for coaching, figure out it's working and develop skill, run it on purpose and translate it to other people. You're literally watching, which on one end is really cool. On the other end, right, you and I have the opportunity, since you have the opportunity to go, holy shit, this actually works. I can stop wasting this time and energy as often as I possibly can, and I can actually start where I stayed. Is where you are positive or negative? No, it's neutral. It's neither. It's neither. Why? Oh man, I feel really good about where I am. Great. What does that have anything to do with what you're going to do next? Man, I feel like shit about where I am. Great. What does that have anything to do with where you are next? Guys, we are where we are. Now, can we get excited about what we can do from where we are? Yeah. We can gather up that experience. We can gather up that growth. Right? We get to lock in our advances. I am a huge believer in this part. And there's lots of people that struggle with this particular thing because it feels good to feel good. Of course it does. But does it feel good to feel bad?
No, but I really didn't.
Right? Are you in charge of feeling good or feeling bad about an event? No. The same situation. Right? You catch a red light. Is that good or bad? Who knows? Man, I missed the light. Yeah, but you missed the train that was going to hit you. You have no idea. See, part of this, when we think we should be somewhere else, there's no way to operate from strength in that moment. How are things going? Oh, things are good. No, they're not. They're shitty. But I just met you or just saw you, so I didn't want to complain to you for an hour and a half, so I'm going to lie to you and tell you things are good. And then I'm going to get away from talking about me, and I'm going to talk about you. You haven't seen someone in 6 months. How are things going? Oh, man, things are pretty good. How about with you? Oh, things are pretty good. What have you been up to? Oh, not a whole lot. Just looking at this and that. How about you? You know, I've been doing that and this. That's why we haven't seen each other. Neither one of you actually want to talk about the fact that you're not where you want to be. And if you accidentally find someone who's really excited, then they're like, well, I feel really good. You feel really bad. So now I feel kind of jerky telling you all the good things that are going on. There's all of these dynamics that are going on. You're watching this in real time, which is fantastic. Very fun. Very proud. Very excited for this journey. Here's the deal. One, Wade's bought into this, which is incredibly helpful. And he approaches and he's open to this premise. Guess what you're going to watch? You're going to watch time frames collapse. Because the stronger you get, the better you get. The moment skill development becomes the validator, you're actually looking for holes. When working is your validator, you're scoping over, you're bridging over holes. Because you don't want to find the holes here, because the holes here undermine your objective of validation. Does that make sense? If you're trying to figure out if it's working, and you run into a hole, that prohibits you from believing it's working. And so if you want it to work and you believe someone else, if Wade believes me and I'm like, this is going to work, and he's like, well, right now I'm not seeing it, but Sears says it's going to work, so he believes me, we pull him over the holes. And go, oh, don't worry about that landmine right there. Oh, don't worry about that. But look at what's possible. And every time there's something positive, it's an indicator of it working, and every time there's something that's not so good, we step over. Does that make sense? Because the validation of it working is the priority. Does that make sense? Now, when the validator of the skill improvement is the priority, now when we're walking down the same street we were walking down last time, and there's a hole, are we bridging it? No, we're getting our toolbox out. We're like, shit, we know this thing's gonna work, but man, if this hole's not here, we're gonna be able to run faster. Let's fix this hole. Fix the hole. Now is it, oh God, there's a hole? No, we're like, shit, you realize how much faster we're going to be now that that hole is fixed on that street? Walk a little bit further. Oh shit, there's another hole. Well, go get the toolbox and we fix that hole. Now what'll happen in not so distant future is Wade's like, man, I'm really good at fixing holes. So now not only does the system work, not only is he developing his skill, but he's actually developing the skill of fixing holes, so now he's not in threat when he identifies it. So then when someone on his team comes, he's like, we can fix these holes, let's go do it. That's our business. It's any business, but that's our business. This is what we get paid millions of dollars to do. And we actually have a language to teach it. This is not magic. What you've watched Wade do, and what you're going to watch him do over the next 6 months won't be magic. Now, there are people in this room that are, I'm almost done. There are people in this room that have convinced themselves that it is. Because that's how they feel better. But if you're standing here, how many of us are standing here? Wherever here is in our business. Everyone please raise your hand. I'm standing here. Because this goal is my determiner. Who's in charge of setting this? You are, I am. How can, Cindy, how can you're in my business, I've been in business 25 years, how can we be at the same place? Well, because I'm in this place and I'm far from where I want to go. Like, it's the same deal. Well, Brad, I have more baggage. Well, drop them. You don't understand. You're right. It's not fair. Of course not. Capitalism doesn't care. Jim Rohn said it the best. Don't bring me your need, bring me your seed. Bring me your value. Can't go to the land and go, give me crops. The land goes, I don't understand. Give me peanuts. Plant peanuts. I planted asparagus. How come you brought me asparagus? I planted asparagus. How come you brought me asparagus? I didn't want asparagus. Well, why'd you plant it? Well, those were the only seeds I had. How many of you have been confused before because you planted seeds you didn't want with the seeds you had and you got the crops you didn't want but felt bad about them but were confused? And then how many of you blamed the crop? Isn't that fascinating? We blame the crop. What you plant will grow. So wait for it, and then I'm done. Look back at what you've grown. You will see what you planted. Stop right now. Turn around. Look at your crops. Look at your crops. It'll tell you, not if you're a good farmer. Of course you're a good farmer. No one else grew those crops. I have 25-foot-tall weeds. You are an expert at distractions. Everything's dead. Your fertilizer or feed might be poisonous. Man, it's all discombobulated. This little area is flourishing and this area is that. Oh, you might be inconsistent. You farm what's easy. That's all here. The reason I'm having this conversation is, one, I want to give you a foresight so that over the next 90, 120 days, when you watch Wade grow to the level that he's going to and the skill improvement dramatically happens, I don't want anyone in this room to think it was luck. And I don't want anyone in this room to think they can't do it, because Wade couldn't do what Wade's about to go do 3 months ago. And I want to finish with this just so that we don't miss this. Tony, I'm not asking you to go from where you are to here right now. You know why? Because you can't get there. This conversation, the problem with doing these particular conversations this way is threat-based people or people that are ambitious have a tendency to go, I'm fresh in where I am and I want to hurry and get to where someone else is, which is fantastic. But if you don't do the work they did, you can't get to where they are. You don't shortcut the growth someone else already did. Now, you can get there faster if you have less resistances. It should take less for everyone in this room to need validation that it's working. A year from now, this line could be this long. A year from now, when we've got 87 people that are coming in, running their farm systems, running the systems, working and stuff like that. Someone's like, holy shit, am I going to be able to pass this test? They're like, oh yeah, I just studied this up. Okay, that's easy. Boom. We can shorten these steps based on culture, but we can't shortchange the work. But if you and I understand where we are, we can understand where it is we need to get to. That is our option. So the next, Robin's gonna come up and walk through like how and what, but this gives us that process. So all of us can engage that. So thanks, guys.
I'm gonna take a slightly different turn than I was planning on based on that conversation for a minute here. So this IMIC concept, do you think this was created because most people actually act this way and just a few people act that way? No, right? Brett built this. This tool was built because most, like 99.9% of us act this way. This is what we talk about, right? We build up the gusto, we get really excited, we have a lot of energy, we see this light at the end of the tunnel, we reach for it, and something happens. We fall back. The 3 people that I brought here left. I can't recruit. And we fall back. And so we looked at that behavior and we looked at the people who are successful and said, what's the difference? And recognized that the difference is that the people who are successful run this. Because the success is based on this movement. However, you can't, it is very challenging to run this if you aren't clear, if you don't have some clarity about what this is for you. If you have no idea at all about the direction you're headed, it is insanely challenging to run this play. I want you to ask yourself, there's going to be 3 questions that you ask yourself in order to run this effectively. And the first question is, what's my direction? Where am I headed? Because on the one hand, you're going to see what we're talking about in this sort of exponential growth from Wayne. And part of that, a big part of it, has to do with what Brett talked about, which is the validation versus the skill focus. We also saw, I saw in Wayne, a tremendous level of growth when he started to express clarity on the direction he was headed in. When he declared, here's where I want to be. Here's the time frame I'd like to be there in. That might not be the exact time frame, but I have clarity on the direction I'm going. That was the first piece. Have you defined the direction you're going in? Now, that direction can change, right? This isn't like I set my direction and things happen in my life and I can't ever change it, right? You might get to here and realize, oh wait, now that I'm seeing things from this new mountaintop, this is gonna look, I wanna change that a bit. It's changeable, but in the moment, in the day, in the week, in the month, you need clarity on where your direction is. What kind of business are you building? Right? Because now we're talking about this business. And you can run this for your life. You can run it for your health. You can run it for your engine, right? But we're talking about our business and growing this business. What's your beacon? Is it 10 offices? Is it one office? Is it to make sure that you are ready and available for the Uber Primerica opportunity? What is your beacon in this business? And if you're not clear, which is perfectly acceptable, your coaches are here to help you get clear. Brett, me, Sue, wait, we're here to say, let's have these conversations. What makes sense for you in your life? You need a beacon. That's number one. Number two, you have to be able to define and explain where you are. If you don't know where you are, how can you possibly know where you're going? I want to get to here, and I am here. With no judgment, right? That's what Wade was talking about, what Bro was talking about. I simply am here. I am sitting here without my investment licenses. I'm sitting here and I know these conversations. Where are you today? And the beauty is that the lineup is there to help you figure out where you are. You don't even have to spend a whole lot of time, right? Once you know the lineup, it's not just about categorizing other people, it's also about categorizing ourselves. The lineup gets to tell you, where am I in this business right now? It's your guide, right? If you're a player, you know where you are. You know what steps you're going to take. You know your relationship with your coach. So you've got to be able to say, I need clarity on my beacon. What is my beacon? What is my direction? You got to be able to say, where am I? And then you have to be able to say, where am I going? What can I see? Because you got to be able to define what you want. And you got to be able to know where you are. And if you can't define what you see, then you're not going to go anywhere. And you want to define what you see with your coaches, because you might mess with your own mind and say you see here, which is what Brett just said could happen after this conversation. What do you really see here? Wade got crystal clear. And this is a skill. Let's be very clear. This is a skill. This is a skill that Brett is still working on, that I am still working on, that we are all still working on this skill. It takes practice. It takes work. It takes engaging in it. And I've watched Wade get clearer and clearer on his I want, his big I want, and get clearer and clearer about where he is, and get clearer and clearer about what he sees. And the greatest evidence of that was a conversation with someone that he's been working on for 2 years, who says that his wife is now the head of HR for a hospital in Beverly Hills. And Wade says, focus on where I am, focus on what I see, run the lineup, run the play, use my skills, and it's going to happen. But almost nobody in this room, including me, would have done that. How tempting to say, head of HR, oh, well, you know, I've been talking about this business partner. Can you make an introduction to me? Oh, well, we've got this great wellness program. We got to get that in that hospital. So easy to do. I absolutely would have done it. Okay? Just so we're all clear. Brett's like nodding in the back because he knows I would have done it. With the clarity, with the skill. Wade was able to say, wait, That's not the play that's actually going to get me where I'm trying to go. Because I have clarity on where I'm trying to go, and I have clarity on where I am, and I have clarity on where this person is in that relationship. May you all be in a conversation like that, and I put weight in your head and say to yourself, where is this person and where do I want to take them? What is 1 degree more intense? It changes everything. Everything. Because Wade's in this business. He's growing a business. This isn't about how do I make a few bucks tomorrow. This isn't about how do I get there in a month versus the year that I've given myself. Or such. This is about saying, I'm going to be aggressive and obsessive on the process. Not on the dollar. Not on the result that actually is not aligned with my process. I'm going to be aggressive on the process, and if I'm aggressive on the process, it becomes an inevitable result. Wade can be aggressive on the process because he knows. He knows that doing wellness at that hospital is an inevitable result. And if it's not at that hospital, it's going to be somewhere else. Because he's gotten aggressive on the process. Everybody in here has an opportunity to get aggressive on the process. And you can't. It is nearly impossible if you don't have some clarity on what is your I want, where are you, and what can you truly see without judgment. There was a time when Cindy came in here to study the Series 6, and she was like, oh, you must be kidding me. Like 4 years ago. Right? The words on the paper are like, it's like I'm reading another language, Robin. Like I might as well be reading German, right? We're like, okay, let's start with the first half of Unit 1. Let's start with one chart. Because that's what she could see. Right? There's no judgment on what you can see. And if you're not honest about what you can see, you will end up in this world somewhere. The reason that we went back to this piece of paper last week, the reason that I'm going to go back to that paper this week, is this is what helps you remind you of what you can see. Make sense? And when you fill it out and review it with your coach who simply has more experience can help you identify whether you're actually saying that you see here when you really see here. My Series 6 license, I'm studying for my Series 6 license. Great, that's where you are. Okay, what can you see accomplishing this week in studying your Series 6 license? That's what this is about. This is the practice. This is the muscle memory. This is the working the tool piece. Right? I want to be in a bodybuilding contest. Well, you gotta lift weights. Right? This is the lifting weights part. You don't even know what to put on this paper if you don't have some clarity. So the tool is only as good as we actually get aggressive on it and obsessive on it. So this week, write down these 3 questions and answer them. Start to answer them. What do you want in your Primerica business? And if you're like, I have no idea, that's okay. Get with your coach and let's talk about it. And maybe, right, we're gonna say, okay, what do you want just in the next 3 months? Right? This doesn't have to be this like, where do I want to be in 10 years thing. We need a direction. Ask yourself, where am I now on the path to getting what I want in my Primerica business? Where am I now? What can I see accomplishing in some reasonable period of time? Some people can see the next month. Some people can see 3 months from now. Some people can just see next week. And whatever you can see, what you do each week will be guided by this piece of paper for everybody in this room. Everybody in this room. Does that make sense? If you cannot answer these 3 questions, you won't be able to be aggressive with the tool. And you ultimately will be frustrated.
Can you go to 3 questions again?
Yes. What do I want in my Primerica business or my Primerica business? What is my big one? And like I said, this is still individualized, right? You might be able to see RVP in 20 offices, and someone else might be able to see being able to have the level of skill to be called on any Tuesday to service a wellness client. But what do I want? Right? And then we can work together on realistic timeframes here. Because we don't know. We don't know what's going to come up in here. But we need a direction. This is the direction. Where am I now? On the path to the direction I want for my Primerica business. Right? We talk about these tools in our lives, and I want you to use the tool in your life. And we are here to build a Primerica business. That's what we're doing here. We're here to build the B2B model, the B2B platform, the business that is going to change people's lives bigger and faster than any other financial services company out there. That's what we're in this room to do. Where am I? Where can I see as my next step towards achieving what I want for my Primerica business? What can I see? And so, when Wade, you talk about the 3 buckets, right? So for you, it's what can I see in each bucket, right? We created a proxy for the buckets, right? The example of the buckets on this page for anyone who's moving to a game day player. Right? These are your buckets, Cindy. Licensing is a bucket until you've checked it off. Right? You've checked off that bucket. So that bucket's done. Right? Working your farm system is a bucket that never goes away because that's our business. Right? Building your skills is a bucket that never goes away. Never. Right? Brett, me, Sue, we're still building our skill, right? It's for us, it's what's the next skill? For the next I want. And managing your capital reserves never goes away. But you can see how the buckets, right? The buckets, some of this evolves as you move, and your I wants start to move with you. Everything that Wade has talked about, right? The 3 buckets, it all fits in here. This is your guidepost. Because we recognize that this is a skill. And so even within this tool, we built other tools to support each other in running this tool and becoming masters of this tool. And the beauty of the tool is that it gets to be your guide, not just for when it's going right in your mind, but almost more importantly for when it's going wrong. if you feel like your business isn't where you want it to be, what Brett said, right? If you feel like you're not where you want to be, it's because something is off in this tool. Always. Like, this is the foundation of it all. If your business isn't where you think you want it to be, it is because one of those three questions is not actually answered in clarity and in honesty. Guarantee. There are very few guarantees that I make. I guarantee you. Tony, if you say to me, my business is not where I want it to be, then I'm going to say, okay, we know one of three things. Either what you think your I want isn't actually your I want, or you don't even have one clarified. Where you think you are isn't actually where you are, and what you say you see is actually much farther along than you are being honest about. Guaranteed. One of the biggest changes that I saw in Wade when we really started to see things happen was clarity and commitment and obsession on this tool. Whether he realized it or not, but I think he did. That make sense? Ask yourself the three questions. Check yourself on those three questions. I guarantee one of those three things is off. If you can say, I'm not where I want my business to be. Now, we're all in here gonna say we're not at our big want, because if we were, we'd have a new big want. Right? This isn't about saying, I want to be RVP and I'm not RVP. Okay. Right, you're not. Right? I want to have 20 people on my team and I don't have 20 people on my team. True. I wanted to have passed my 6 and 63 and 65 by next month. Okay. That's not what Brett means when he says my business isn't where I want. Okay? Because of course you're not at your big I want. If you are, you sure as heck better change it. What he says when he says my business isn't where I want is that you are judging you for not already being there when you're friggin' here. You are sitting there saying my business isn't what I want, it's because you are judging you for where you are on this line. And that means you have a choice. You can hang out here with all that energy, in which case I'll see you next year, right here. There'll be a warm seat for you if you want it. Or you can say, and this is an interesting transition, right? Because, like you said, I'm really good at being negative. Somewhere in our lives, for many of us, we got something out of being negative, or we wouldn't be negative. We got something out of saying I'm not where I want to be because we were able to make ourselves somehow actually feel better about it in the negativity.
But sometimes you like even getting attention from people because you're like, oh, this is going on and I couldn't do that.
Right,
So you get
right.
attention.
Well, and we're able to justify for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Right? Like, oh, I have so much going on. Kid, this, or that, like, and society accepts it. Society accepts it because the people at the top want you to keep feeling this way. Like, this tool was created because we looked at the successful people. The most successful people in this country don't sit here talking about how they're not where they want to be. And we can define success in a lot of ways, right? This isn't just financial. The tool is there because changing that deep, ingrained negative critic is hard. And sometimes it requires lots of therapy. But we don't do therapy in here. You might also need some therapy, and that's okay too. What we did is we came up with a practical tool that you could turn to. If you turn to the tool, the critic can still live. Put the critic on you getting obsessed on the tool. The critic can be very helpful. We all have it. This tool helps you say, I can sit and be upset about where I am, or I can just run the tool. And the tool tells me to run it at a neutral assessment, to find my IC, and to do the steps and learn the skills to get there. Therapy would say the same thing too.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that we know that what we think impacts our actions. Therapy spends a lot of time historically on how we think to impact our actions. And here, we're spending time on our actions, and that will impact us. We pay attention to the thinking, we listen to the thinking, but the attack, right? The attack of the tool is on the action. Now you have to have a certain level of a way that you're going to think in order to engage in the tool. And what you will find is that when you engage, the action itself, the series of actions will actually start to have the backward impact as well.
No, I was just gonna say, and you can even, like, you can hack your brain on this because you're just trying to do percentages, right? Like, I don't know, maybe Brett operates in this all the time, there's people that do it, I don't. Like, but you can say, okay, for the next hour, I'm gonna be neutral. I'm gonna try to assess where I am. And I'm going to try to carve this out for an hour and see how it feels. And then at the end of that hour, you can say, well, how did that feel? And then you're like, that was dumb. Well, then you're like, okay, maybe I learned something, right? And then you can expand how much time that you spend in that space.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Otherwise, you criticize yourself for not being in the space long. So it's a tricky street.
Yeah. And if you obsess on if you are clear, let's take clarity. If you are clear on what the action you're doing is, the clarity on the action and taking the action actually allows you to get out of your head altogether. Now, the question becomes when you take that action, how do you respond to the result? Right? And so the answer is, okay, I took the action, it did what I thought it was going to do, or it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, and based on that information, I'm going to take my next action. Does that make sense? And that way, so on the one hand, yes, like feeling it and sitting with it is really helpful. And at the same time, if you obsess on the action, it actually forces you out of the brain space. If you don't have clarity on the action, how could you do it? Right? We're not sitting in here holding you accountable to by yourselves figuring out this and figuring out this and figuring out this and figuring out the next action. The beauty is your coaches are trained to help you do that and have developed very specific tools to help you do it. If we don't use the tools, we won't do it. Even me, I will tell you, the weeks that I fill this out, my Primerica business moves farther along than the weeks I don't. It's just true. It was so interesting, and I don't have my book here. I've been working with Wade on my own productivity and efficiency, right? And the Pomodoro technique. We're all working on skills of where we are. And I have my world in buckets, right? I've got my engine bucket, I've got my Primerica bucket, I got my family bucket, right? Of the things that I need to get done, want to achieve that week. And the last 2 weeks, my engine has gotten progressively more intense. And this week, when I cashed out, so I look at my day and what I've done and what I need to do the next day. And then on Fridays, I look at my week. I didn't write down my Primerica bucket this week. Like I have a headache when I write Primerica. and it was filled with my engine. And I was like, guess what? My primary business didn't move very far this week. Now it moved a little farther because this guy's finally obsessive, which is really awesome. On paper on purpose. There's a reason for it. If you are here to hang out with us and learn a couple new skills that you can apply in your life to make it better, welcome. You'll trip on someone or something that's going to help grow our cause and our message, for sure. If you are here to grow a Primerica business, to make the lives of your family a little bit easier, to secure your future, to build a legacy, then you have got to turn to this tool. You have got to commit to getting clarity on the 3 questions this week. You have got to fill this out. And then you actually have to do it. Which begs me to say, and do it, and do it, and do it till we get the job done. For those of you who have ever listened to our plan. But there's a reason it keeps going up. Thank you. We can talk all day long about all these awesome tools. We got tons of them. You have to do it. You have to do it. And normally I would end this meeting on that note. However, someone in this room is really dedicated to doing it. And I don't want him to miss out on his opportunity to share with you what that looked like for him this week. With that, I'm going to bring up the great David Camacho.
Good morning. Good afternoon. And good evening. Just in case I'm doing this presentation in the morning, the evening, or at night. Afternoon. So I just want to, so this week I really took engagement into learning a skill, which is the presentation, in the go back or on the first, and it's the theory of decreasing responsibility. So I want to, practice it and say it out loud with you guys. So, give you some good feedback after. Good. And then I'm getting into skill to, use this Elmo thing. So that's pretty cool. All right, so I'm just gonna, say it how I would be in it's gonna be what it is, what it means, and a little bit how it works in this. Okay. So depending on the savings that you have right now, depending on the savings that you guys have right now, how long would your family maintain their lifestyle? The normal answer would be, 0. I don't have anything to share. My family, this is your little house. Your family would take, less than either 4 seconds or 48 hours before they had to, find a job or do something else, right? So let's say that your house sustains itself at $2,500 a month. So let's say that if God forbid something happens and you have 0 savings, that brings up the need for insurance. And life insurance in that sense is because you want to make, I'm gonna start over, guys. I'm like feeling the jitter, so I'm gonna let it out, and I'm just gonna look at the paper, and I'm not gonna worry about you guys being here. So okay, so let's say that your house is maintained at $2,500 a month. So if something, God forbid, happens to you, you're gonna need at least $2,500 a month to sustain that lifestyle. So if your husband or your wife passes away, that breadwinner is no longer bringing in those $2,500. So that brings in the need for insurance. Now, you want to make sure this locks in your advance in the sense of your generation doesn't start over. You actually continue to live the same lifestyle, even though the burden of the breadwinner is gone. What type of insurance would we use? We all know cash value or term. Term just makes the most sense, right? The amount. So let's say that your house is making $25 a month. So that annually is a $30,000 income. So if we get life protection for $30,000, that will give us 1 year protection on our family. That 1 year protection is great, but if something happens to you, you only have that 1 year of runway. Now let's say we get 60,000. 60,000, 2 years of protection, right? For your family to contain and contain that lifestyle, maintain that lifestyle. Now let's say we get a $90,000 protection. That's 3 years. Something happens to you, that's only 3 years of runway that your family maintains a lifestyle, and after 3 years, either one of the parents has to go get a job or other things happen in your home. Now let's say we get 300,000. How much does 300,000 give us? About 10 years. 10 years of protection for your family. But you see, the 300,000, if it's invested in the right places, you can get 300,000 at 10% if you invested in the American economy. That gives you $30,000 a year, which is the first year, and it pays you $2,500 a month for life. Now that starts changing your family's tree, your family's generation. That means that you're locking in your family's future. Your kids get to still maintain their lifestyle. Your kids get to go to the college. Your kids get to still have those dreams, opportunities that they have. So let's say we agree with the 300,000, right? And 300,000 is going to be your protection, your amount. There's a big gap from the need and what you currently have. 0. Because if something would happen to you and you say you have 0, 300,000 is that protection that you need. That's why life insurance is so important. But how long do you want to pay for insurance? Forever. So we want to introduce, see the gap? We want to introduce the protection that short-term is needed. We want to start creating those habits that can get us to $300,000 of savings. Because if we can create the habits to get us to savings, you no longer need insurance. It gives you that long-term security. How do we get to 300,000? All we got to do is start small. It's a habit, right? You can have an old 401k, if you have old previous jobs, maybe you have $10,000 that you don't know about. But if we get you to a certain amount, we can actively have some people manage that money with our partners and people that we know primarily. We get to our managed accounts, that's $25,000 a month. I was just like, boom, sorry guys. So if we actively get managed accounts actively, because what happens is the wealthy know. If somebody has $250,000 in an account and they're wealthy people, they're having that money managed daily. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we have the same opportunities? And that's what we're partnering with. So we have a $300 commitment, and if with that $300 that you commit with, if we can protect you with the short-term protection and the long-term security, would that be something you'd be? Would it be any reason for you not to start this plan today? Sorry guys, I'm just laughing at myself right now in my head. But is there any reason why you would let me create this plan for you?
Ask that question again.
Yes, ask it.
Is there any reason?
No, the whole thing.
Huh?
The whole thing.
Okay. So with the $300 commitment you guys committed with today, if I can set up a plan that gives you the short-term protection and the long-term security, is there any reason you would let me make that plan a reality? All right. How was that? No?
Okay. It's a good, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good start.
All right, good.
Before you sit down,
Yes.
share a little bit
Oh,
about
yes.
your process.
Okay. So my process of my week. Okay. So, I took it upon myself on Monday to actually, engage in this learning. So Monday, Tuesday, I simply started. So I just started writing everything down on what it is. So I basically just wrote down block in advance, and I did it on a blank sheet of paper. And I did it about 5 times, you know, just to learn where each, like I would draw the house, I did the income, and I would, you know, do everything on a blank sheet of paper. So because that's the way I kind of retain information. So I did it 5 times. That was like my Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday, then I started to say it out loud. So I would share it with Oscar, I shared it with Tony. So I started saying it out loud because then I started seeing my holes of like the story and when I need to have a conversation with them, when I say something or certain thing. And then Thursday was more of a, you know, kind of putting it all together, trying to know what it is, what it means, and how it works. And then on Friday, I met with Robin, and she was gonna, you know, hear it, a complete version of this. And, you know, I met with her and Coach Donna. So one of the things that I've learned, right? So I attacked it a different way that I normally would. I engaged myself to it, but there was still room to grow, right? There was still room for me to develop myself. And one thing that I've learned is that, yes, I did it 5 times on writing on a piece of paper, but I know if I would have done it 20 times, I would have been better, right? I said it out loud 4 times before I did it today. If I would have done that 20 times, I know I would have been better. If I would have said that out loud, I would have been so much better, right? So it was just that room of me understanding now that, hey, 5 times was cool, but 20 times would have been the right amount for me to actually knock this out of the park today. One thing that I learned was leading into the conversation. So when I first sat down with Robin, I automatically started, okay, Robin, you make $2,500, blah, 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 blah. But I never asked her the question to lead her into the presentation, right? And in this sense, it was, depending on the savings that you have right now, how long would it take for your family to maintain the lifestyle if something would happen to you? One of the breadwinners. So that's something I learned after I sat down with Robin yesterday. So I try to apply that today too. I learned to think and analyze, right? So when I was listening to when I was listening to Brett on the YouTube channel, right? Because in the YouTube, you see, you know, he's explaining the theory, the increasing self-ability, but I'm not asking those questions. I'm just trying to remember him word for word. And so when I said it to Robin, I was actually like, okay, you're doing. So he's instructing, teaching. He's giving you so many things in the video. Is that you want to make sure you get the right things. Why did you do this? Why did he check the 30,000? Why every time you remove the 30,000? Why is there things happening that? So I started asking myself this. You know, she taught me that you train yourself to ask yourself these questions. That way you can get better. And instead of 5 times, you're doing it 20 times. You're going to just increase my skill. And I tried a little bit, but that's the reason why I was laughing, because I was trying to put passion, and I wasn't like, man, teaching. And my mind was just everywhere because I wanted to just look at it, and I should have just looked at it and put my passion and caring in what I was doing here, because I know I could have knocked it out of the park if I just done that, right? But I was in my mind was just like, I want everybody to nod, and I'm like, come on, just nod, man. You know what I mean? Like, freaking nod, dude, do something, man. Like, you're not telling me, you're not giving me the feedback I want. And then the last part was, you know, to be a closer, because you want to be able to close this. This is the part where, you know, you're going to close them and you're going to show them their options, you know. So that last piece that Brett had me say out loud was the closing piece. You know, you got to be a closer because they're not going to close themselves, and that's it. And it's the wording, and that's pretty much what I learned.
So one, thank you for putting yourself out there, right? That's awesome. And we're gonna finish up here. The biggest thing that the reason that I wanted David to do this and what we're gonna continue to do is we are in the business of conversations. And this is about how do you learn these conversations, okay? And what it is, right, is literally, David started with just saying, okay, what am I writing down, right? Like, what is it, you know? And then we went into the what does it mean? Like, what do each of the words actually mean? And then we go into the how it works, right? And what you saw today is David's in the what it means process, right? Because it's not until we actually know all of the words, like memorize the words, right? And then understand what they mean, that we can actually start to engage in what's our delivery. How do we drop into our heart and connect with the person that we're talking to so that they can hear us?
I'm gonna, David.
Yeah.
Hey guys, can we go a couple minutes long? And do you trust me? So I'm gonna embarrass you, but not embarrass you, because I want to show that why this is important. Okay. on this, on one very, very particular example, and the difference between what it is and then when you get into what it means. The lead-in question is what?
Depending on the savings you have currently, how long will it take your family?
Okay, so depending upon the savings you have, how long would your family be okay? What does that mean?
That means if,
The words.
okay,
So, Sue, is that the right word? No. What is it? Based on your savings. You continued to say depends on your savings. What does depends mean? Depends isn't a question. When we start talking about the power of understanding what things mean, you can start finding the holes. You have to know what it is to figure out, oh crap, I have a thinking issue when it comes to what's going on. Does that make sense? And so you continue to convince yourself that it depends. Depends. And it's like nails in the back of my, I'm like, no! But it was a gap. Now here's the reason, is if you don't seek counsel, you could actually convince yourself that that's what it's supposed to be. But when we talk about what are the gaps, what is the work? The work is learn the words. And then ask yourself, what do the words mean? I know you didn't ask yourself what that sentence means. Because had you asked yourself, what does that sentence mean? There's no way you continue the word depends because it doesn't actually make any sense at the beginning of a sentence. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? And again, I appreciate the will, but it was there, right? To be able to, and I didn't want, I'm sure, but that's the work. That's how we get to do it. You willing to put yourself out there allowed you to save yourself 3 months because we might not have ever heard that. So, good job, but it's nice to know the word, right?
Yeah, right. Right. And yeah, so the couple things takeaways. So one, we're in the business of conversation. 2, we want to pay attention to how we're learning conversations. Are we putting the intensity that we want to in what we're learning? And the way the conversations are presented to you are on purpose, which is what I was showing to David. Every mark that Brett makes on that paper, on that YouTube video, is on purpose. You might think that it's not, and you need to know that it is. If Brett crosses something out, there's a reason for it. There's an emotional response to the fact that he crosses out that money for the person he's talking to, right? Because if it's just sitting there, it's like it still exists for the family. Well, yeah, right? It's not gone. You're like, oh, that chick's gone. 1 year, gone. 2 years, gone. 3 years, gone. The 300,000, if you watch the video, he never crosses out. Why? Because he's going to show you how it's going to last a lifetime. These are the little things, right? That's part of what it is. When you get good at it, when you know it, like Sue does, Brett does, then you get to start to say, okay, where is the emotion, right? What is my delivery on it? How am I engaging the particular person that I'm talking to? Right? What is my opening? What is my closing? Very important, which is another one that you're going to look at, right? David has a tendency to say, would you be, based on the $300 commitment you gave, would you be interested in a plan? No, because my answer is no, right? So when you're engaging in conversations, learning conversations, we want to pay attention to what is the process that we're going through, which we will spend a lot more time on in the future. This week, this is what I want you to focus on. What is your I want? These are your 3 questions. What is your I want? What is your I am? What is your I see? And then the next stage is, what is my plan to get from where I am to what I see? Right? And then we get to engage our planning tools.
Why?
We get to go wide. We get to pay attention to strategic planning and technical planning. These things all flow together. But if you don't start here, Everything flows from here. Every tool we have flows from here, guys. Start to get clear here this week, because this room will not grow a Primerica business if we don't. Got it? Because we have to let them know it's all about
Access.
Thank you.